right to say you kind of look down on them? You kind of look because they're different. Because
I wonder if that's because perhaps you're in some way feeling threatened by them.
Yeah, perhaps the
if they're quite happy
feels
as a subculture, and they're quite confident and they're quite happy together.
They evidently do. But what I'm more interested in is do individuals in a dominant group feel threatened by individuals in a subgroup? I mean,
feel they have to.
Well, yeah.
Okay, that's a good point you brought up. What about? Let me try and thicken it a little bit by saying there are certain individuals that can fluctuate.
I currently have one of the most enjoyable jobs that I can imagine doing. I'm Deputy Commissioner and Chief Medical Officer for New York State Corrections, which means I have 70,000 patients in 70 state prisons. People who basically have had very little health care in the past, their contact with the healthcare system was to go to a public clinic and get their shots so they could go to school and maybe go to the emergency room to get sewed up or after they'd gotten shot or stabbed or something of that sort. Basically, that's the health care that they've had. People get into prison usually because they have taken risks they shouldn't have taken. They've done things that a rational person would say, you don't do that sort of thing. And they've done that because they didn't figure they're worth doing anything else. They grew up in a neighborhood where the only person who looked like they had a decent source of income was selling substances on the street. If I grew up in that neighborhood, would I have been any different? I don't know.
Heaven is real. I dream this place if hurt goes away. Try to keep an eye on my faith and iron my name and pay what's not paid.
The way people look at you, I think, people think they can sum you up in half a look, I try hard not to judge people, and it's easy to do. It's very easy. It's too easy, it sort of comes with second nature.
Are we going to do it differently though, in some way?
There's so many people that just go by, that we don't recognise, don't want to recognise because they're not wearing the cool clothes or their skin's too pale.
It's on your face, you wanna pick me up, but I haven't fallen.
If anything, this song for me has made me a more open-minded person about people.
I work as a youth worker for Great Mates. It's a corporation started up by Butch Hayes. Used to play for Newcastle Falcons. You ring up his phone and it's like, hey, it's Mr. Basketball here. He's a hell dude though. But what I do, I just look after kids who haven't had that head start, with parents. When it goes, oh, you should come in there and go. I look after 2 kids at the moment. The first kid I looked after, it was just the one, that was for about a year. And I think he had ADHD and he was obsessive compulsive. He'd walk around the kitchen and do this on the floor and pick up little pieces of dust and put it in the bin. And it's just crazy. You're making a mess, but, oh man, take it easy. But it's hard to know the exact things to say and whatnot. So yeah, that's basically what I do when I'm not playing with the band and collaborating music.
I don't actually know too much about gangs.
I would say it was probably the same thing, isn't it? They're fitting in and they want to be a part of a group, and being part of a group gives you power.
How does it give you power?
Because you've got people who believe in the same things as you around you. I mean, anybody would tell you if you're walking down the street with a group of people, you feel much more confident than if you're on your own.
But they're not an in-group though, are they? They're not, they're not...
No, but
they're not
endeared
accepted.
They're not endeared to society.
No, but no group is. I don't think any group is particularly. I think each group defines its own sort of interactive mores, the way of working, and each group thinks it's better than the other.
One of my occasional assignments is to give the graduation talk to the new correctional officers that have just gone through the training academy. And my usual approach is, among other things, to say to them, look, you may be the only opportunity that this inmate has to see that somebody values him or her. This is your chance. It's very hard as a correctional officer not to get burned out and see everybody you're dealing with as unsalvageable. But don't get that way. See them as people.
I have a problem with, and I think most people do, but I have a problem with people who don't like me for no reason. This one. Is that right? For example, when I did computers at TAFE, I had a teacher, and because I was hanging around with a guy that had earrings and black hair and it was long and he had chains and all that sort of thing, she didn't know what I knew about him. He was a really top bloke, really nice guy, but she really didn't have time for him as much as anybody else in the classroom, and I think that that was a bit prejudice against the way he looked. And me personally, because I got to know him, I found out a lot of things about him that nobody else probably would have time for because of that distance that they put between them and him because of his appearance. I don't like explaining it too specific to how Jared and I have put the words together, because I like people really finding their own similarities between how they feel and what they feel when they listen to the song, because it's like words are also written to express a certain emotion rather than actually specifically demanding a line of thought by the listener.
It's on your face, you wanna pick me up, but I haven't fallen. Okay, maybe we are the same. Your eyes give you away, give you away. Your eyes give you away.
Children sense it especially. Like if they hear this song, Your Eyes Give You Away, and so they think, I've got to be nice to people now, and I've got to go out and I've got to look at people now, I've got to shake their hand and say, how you going? You can sense when someone doesn't really mean it. You can sense when they're being fake about it. That's one of the most, it's disgusting when someone's so arrogant. They shake your hand just for the picture of it.
So if you read your average black magazine like Ebony or whatever, and you look at the adverts, they're mostly about making your hair straight or making your skin paler, or in other words,
Michael Jackson.
making yourself look a bit more like the ideal, which is supposed to be white appearance, etc. As far as intellectual achievements are concerned, there was a time when it was thought that if you were black, you were necessarily a bit stupid.
I read in a history book from it was written in 1952 or 3. There was a little just a history book about black people and white people, and it kind of made me, I really felt it was kind of racist. And then I went and I got a biology book from the same year, 52, 53. And there was I have to show that it's very interesting, had a little article written by some kind of big, doctor, scientist, saying that, yes, it's true, it has been scientifically proved that black people are
Intellectually
inferior. That book was written in France in 1952. It's a biology book.
Yeah, sure. Now, you imagine a whole generation of people brought up to believe that, both the whites reading it, but also there would have been black kids in the French dependencies or whatever, would have been brought up in that kind of context.
The racial issues are crucial. Of course, we're fortunate in Southern California. We come from a community that is completely blended. You've got to learn Spanish if you're going to live in Southern California in the next 5 years. We all know that. 54% of the population is Hispanic. We have a huge influx of immigrants in California. We don't sense the same kinds of racial prejudice that some other parts who have historically had real dividing lines between the races. We have our own kinds of prejudice here. It's intellectual and financial and all those things, which makes prejudice just as real, but it's in a whole different context.
We have in our system what I think is a very constructive program. It's the largest, as far as I know, shock incarceration program in the country, and it's aimed at people who did a nonviolent crime and have a debt to pay to society because of that, and they can do it in 6 months instead of 3 years. About half of people who are qualified for it actually agree to do it. It's hard work, really hard. They're up with dawn, they're out there running their several miles in the morning, doing their calisthenics just like they're in military boot camp. And then the rest of the day is split between community service and education. Some of it's drug education, some of it is academic education. I go to the graduations of these from time to time. And there's a graduation every 6 months from each of our facilities where the group that's been in graduates. And it's remarkable to see the pride this instills in the young people who go through it. In that 6 months, they may have been able to improve their reading and their math skills by 3, 4, 5 years. I see them recognized for that. I see them recognized for having given up smoking. I saw a fellow recognized for having lost 100 pounds, and he was so proud of himself. This was the first time that many of these people ever proved to themselves that they could do it, that they really were worth something.
Your eyes give you away.
I don't think it's about entertainment at all. If people find it entertaining, then that's great. It's definitely more about just connecting with the audience. It's about if you believe in what you do, if you're honest about what you do, then people pick up that. People aren't stupid. People will recognise that, and I think they'll appreciate it. And appreciate you. You won't be taken for a fake or another person trying to make a few bucks.
Sometimes when we're sitting in the car and we're having a conversation, you'll say something and the kids will pick every little word in the sentence, twist it around and whatever, and make you feel like that they're right, and it's real hard. I do this job because in the end, someone's got to be there for them, and I'm cool with it. Like I like looking after these kids. But it takes a lot of energy out of it. It takes so much energy. But you can see the changes after about a year or so. You can see where their lives, made a turning point, and you can see that it's for the best. And that's really what gives you your jollies, I guess.
Oh, she can see through you.
This picture I found in one of our annual corrections art displays, inmate art, and it spoke to me because here's a picture done by a man in one of our facilities, a man holding a child, little one, but it's done as a heart. That says something to me about what's inside there if somehow we can get to it. It's there. There's no reason to write him off. There still is opportunity.
There are certain individuals that can fluctuate. They can be members of a dominant group,
Right.
and members of a sub-group, and feel comfortable.
Right.
Whereas there are individuals in a dominant group who can't.
Right.
And can't accept anyone else
Right.
either.
Right.
I think if you can be part of many different groups of people, then I think you have a greater understanding of those people and a greater understanding of how they think and how they work.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having subgroups. I mean,
Opportunity, financial prejudice, events itself in opportunity. If you come from a home that's poor, you don't get the educational opportunity. You learn to read. You don't visit museums. All those things that round you out as a person, make you interested in learning more. Education is power in some ways. So minority groups want their students to learn and be educated, but they don't have the funds to do it. And that's so economy and financial issues really are a prejudicial issue that permeates culture right to its very roots.
There's heaps of factors to why someone can be rejected. There can be a reason, or there can be no reason, and I get angry at people who constantly make invalid rejections every day. And I mean, we all do it, but you know, I think that the world would be a lot better place if everybody concentrated on not like trying to find valid reasons for rejection. Like there's sometimes you can take rejection in the right context and it can be a valid rejection. What I like to do myself and what I've been thinking about lately a lot with the band as well, if we or I get rejected, I kind of like to use it and turn it around as being an inspiration to work harder. I think that rejection is only a temporary thing.
Okay, maybe we are the same.
Okay, maybe we are the same. Okay, mate, because everybody is the same, and the problem is we look at different people and we say, you are lower class, you are this, you are that, and we don't treat them with dignity. We don't. I mean, then you go back to the chorus and it's your eyes give you away because you don't even look at these people. You almost consciously make sure you don't make eye contact with these people in case they do something bad to you. Yeah, it stems right back to people saying this is how you have to be. Individualism is looked down upon, and so everyone is slowly cloned into a certain specimen that someone decided to choose this is how a human should be. And then everybody expects everyone to be this same human, and so the problem then keeps building on. So when someone isn't like that, you look down on them and you don't treat them with the dignity that they deserve.
We voters said, hey, that's not fair. Why do you give free education to a inmate? My kids have to pay for it. I have to pay to send my kids to college. Hey, folks, this isn't giving them something. This is an investment in society's future and their future. Somehow we've got to get beyond what's in it for me to what's in it for society as a whole. What do we care about? How can we help individuals to make a difference? And I think that's the way most of us approach things. We have our own set of things that we do or that our group thinks is okay, and we just sort of write off anybody else. That's dangerous.
Because you have to have many different jobs nowadays, you adapt to those different job conditions. In the same way, in a modern, forward-looking, multicultural society, you should be able to go in and adapt slightly to all these different groups. You know, be they racial or religious. Yeah, everything is a different group, and you just always have to modify yourself slightly.
Perhaps that learning process begins where in a family,
at an early
group.
age.
I love my mother. My mother's a great person. She very accepting. Just a wonderful person. She taught us, when we were very young, be accepting of anyone. I feel like I've never ever had a father figure in my life. It's a real touchy topic for me because it's easy to get emotional about it. But with all my friends, especially with the band now, we're starting to really group together. I can find admirable parts of them that I've wanted that I could see would help me get better as well. I'm not an angel, I'm not holy, but I feel in sync with a lot of today's youth.
Well, it used to be the best bass player in the world. That used to be my dream. But now that I've been working as a team with the other three guys, Jared, Jono and Caleb, it's more about making a song and playing a song. Like when I play bass now, it's more with moulding to the song and not moulding to my own, let's try and get over the top of the music and try and show off and all that sort of thing. So I think growing like these kids, when they're left, you know, alone, they make up a lot of prejudices for themselves, being left on the street, because, you know, you get people who just ignore them and stuff. So it takes a lot to sort of break the ice and get in there. It takes a lot to develop trust with these kids. And yeah, it's a good thing when you can see that these kids really trust you. What I really hate about society is that you just can't walk down the street and think that everybody's your friend and just say g'day. There's always got to be some sort of barrier. You know, like it takes a while to know someone properly, but if you come in thinking that they're a different sort of person because of what they look like or what they wear, what sort of culture they're from, it's all messed up, you know, you've lost the point.
I guess that's the problem with our society, is that there is no time to give anyone else now, and so you think that, I don't know, maybe that is a bad view to have, that you should only have your close friends, but you can't have time for everyone either, so maybe the attitude is just to try and love everyone. But finding self-contentment, I mean, that's the whole quest of life. So it's not like you can just say, here's how you find it.
You know, I can't imagine if you didn't have the right trainers, that was it. You know, there had to be other things.
This is an informal group. It's not rigid. It's not fenced in. You know, it's not to be a part of this group. You must have the latest trainers.
But you see,
it is an ingredient to belong to that group.
Having brand names now, especially sporting brands like Adidas and Reebok and all the rest of them, Nike. That's very, very important. To the children I teach, it's very important.
That's why I say it's not
okay,
isolated.
you wouldn't want to walk in to school if you had a particular day where you didn't have to wear a uniform in anything other than something that was trendy, and something that, you know, and a brand name that people could say, oh, you know, cool top, or you know, that's the way of fitting in and having the right sort of trainers. My sister wouldn't be seen dead in a pair of Marks and Spencer's trainers.
I mean, I guess it would stem from people wanting other people to be like themselves. I guess that's a natural desire to feel comfortable around other people. I mean, courage is what it does take to keep your mind focused on not being selfish.
If you're from a family with 9 kids and you live down in the city and you barely can get milk and food on the table every week, you probably aren't going to have the luxury of going to a museum and looking at great pieces of art or going to the symphony and hearing good music, all of which gives you a perspective on the world that makes you feel a little more a part of a greater world. And so that becomes an issue as well. So prejudice is way more than just racial, and everybody feels it in some way or another.
We decided when we moved to New York 6.5 years ago that we were going to, if we were going to come here, we were going to live in the city and we were going to take full advantage of it. We have a lot of friends. Friends that are divorced, friends that are gay, friends that are physicians, friends that are don't have jobs. They're friends. We have a lot of good times sitting around our table. Friday nights, Saturday nights, doesn't matter. It's when, that tends to be when we have the time to be able to do it. We have some wonderful discussions. People who probably have never had a chance to discuss things before. They're people. I can't tell whether somebody is gay or straight by talking to them. They're people. I can't tell a lot of other things, and I really don't care. I just like them as people and be able to put them together and share, because I grow out of it and they do too.
and I like positive lyrics. I want someone to listen to a CD and go, yes, that makes sense, and not, I want to kill myself.
It's easier to say what I don't like to find in others than what it is to say what I like to find.
No, I'd like to just, I don't know, just to say hello to people, have a chat to whoever I want, you know, blah, blah, blah. Not about the web, not about small talk. I hate small talk. I want to be a part of something that creates music that is inspirational. I want that difference to be inspirational difference. When someone listens to a CD, they will go, I feel inspired. Like, I think to myself, what's going to happen when I quit this job and move on to being a full-time musician? I mean, you know, am I going to see these kids again? And I think yes, because the kids, you know, they need someone. And I just hope that, you know, everyone has someone like that in their life.
When I meet someone, to know that I respect them, that I would love to hear their story.
Being yourself, being comfortable with your faults, being comfortable with your achievements, and if I can, you know, just put a piece of my puzzle into their life and help them, you know, create a broader picture for themselves, and you know, that would be the ultimate.
This sort of brand thing, surely that goes against the individualism that you're talking about. Is it like you're individual to a certain age and then you suddenly become individual?
But it matters more who you are and discovering who you are.
But
and that happens at later stages with people. Sometimes it happens early on in your life, sometimes with other people it happens a lot later.
But adults do feel the need to belong to all these groups, just like, you know, just down the road there is
you
Night
go down
Town.
the gym, they've all got the kit
exactly.
on.
Yeah.
Heaven is real, I dream this place if hurt goes away. Try to keep an eye on my faith and iron my name and pay what's not paid. It's on your face, you wanna pick me up, but I haven't fallen. Okay, maybe we are the same. Your eyes give you away, give you away. Your eyes give you away, give you away. Your eyes give you away, give you away. Your eyes give you away, give you Betty is big, Betty's a big girl, she struggles with it. Oh, she can see through you. I can see it in your face. You wanna pick me up, but I haven't fallen. Okay, maybe we are the same. Your eyes give you away, give you away. Your eyes give you away, give you away. Your eyes give you away, give you
You'll find that when people talk about prejudice and intolerance, that they will generally say that the institution that epitomises it is the Christian Church. And they will point back to those times in history when the Christian Church was at its most intolerant. Inquisition, 100 million people killed. But we must remember and put that in perspective that if you look at the last century, the 20th century, you see a time when people who didn't profess any Christianity at all were seen as even more intolerant. Stalin, for instance, killed 60 million people, it is said. Hitler perhaps was responsible for 60 million being killed. Now, he was not a Christian. He was into a concept of a will to power. He followed Nietzsche, a philosopher. Pol Pot, a communist, killed 3 million. And so intolerance is something which is much broader than Christian intolerance. In actual fact, when you go back to the Bible, you find that it teaches the most incredible care for people, not intolerance. Within the Old Testament, it talks about having to look after the person who is in poverty. If you are secure, look after the poor, it says. And so by the time that you get Jesus coming along and he finds his Jewish brothers intolerant of other races, he sends them towards the Samaritan or the Gentile and says, this is your obligation, and this is Christian obligation, not to be intolerant, but to be inclusive.
We looked at prejudice from the other side, not are you prejudiced, but how do young people feel accepted? And young people don't feel accepted in older groups. They they feel watched. All the identifiers of adolescence are not the identifiers of adulthood. Types of music, clothes, shoes, drink, even the soda that they hold or the belts they wear. All of these things, while they identify young people as a community, they are the identifiers that don't make them accepted by groups who have a whole nother standard.
It's wrong. It's a bit of a sweeping thing to say that, perhaps, there isn't really anything such as a dominant group.
Maybe.
I think there is.
I don't think you'll ever change that in society. I think there will always be varying levels of groups of people across everything, okay, across lifestyles and beliefs, across age groups and the whole works.
Right.
And I don't see that ever changing. I think the only thing that you can do to work within or with lots of groups of people is to be much more accepting and tolerant of other people's ideas and other people's beliefs and other people's feelings about
But
things.
I think our tolerance is superficial. It's like topsoil.
Well, there's so much
tolerant,
underneath, isn't
there? Yeah, we're tolerant because, in fact,
it's
the
politically
in thing
correct,
at the
isn't
moment
it? Yeah.
to be tolerant. To be tolerant is the in thing to accept, Yes, I respect your opinion and I respect your opinion. But what you're really saying, never the twain shall meet. You're expecting everybody's opinion, but at the same
you don't
time,
actually believe anything they say.
Exactly. And so, the main group has this common set of opinions, and if it's not, and if the subgroup doesn't agree with them or conform to them,
well, that's fine, but they're not going to change.
That's it. That's fine.
anyone.
It's okay for you, but don't try and change the dominant group.
Right.
And you're not getting in.
Yeah.
You're not getting in without a pass.
Yeah.
Say a corporate executive male wanted to hang out with me because I wasn't, because I was a stay-at-home mom and stuff. I'd be like, what the hell do you want to hang out with me for? What are you doing here?
But I mean, I also think back to like adolescence. I mean, I remember my group of friends and hanging out with them and going places with them, and there was just this sense of safety, this sense of we can take on the world, we can do whatever, we can kick ass, it doesn't matter, because they had my back and I had their back. And you felt that support, and it was kind of like, even though you didn't set it up, it was kind of us against who's going to take us on, and there was this kind of this safety, because to do it on your own, it's scary, And I mean, take gangs. I mean, why did people go into gangs? It's for safety issues almost, because they're going to get their butts kicked if they don't join the gang by the people there. So they're initiated in, and then there's this sense of pride, and they don't leave because the relationships they form there, and their identity becomes that group of people.
Do you know anybody who does try and go it on their own, or who does make friends intentionally with someone of a different age range, or, you know, totally different interests? Do you know people
No, I don't
like
know.
that?
I know for me that I've become friends with people that are different than me almost by accident. Like something like I've been forced to hang out with a group in a school situation or in a church situation or another sort of situation, and then I've gotten to know them. But if I was to go out and choose friends, they weren't the people I was going to pick as friends. I want to pick the people that are like me.
There's a wonderful poem by a black poet. I think it's Césaire who says that. It's a hymn in praise of those who never invented anything, who never did anything great, who didn't have any great empires and all that kind of stuff. Because you know, of course, that there are people now in black groups in America, for instance, you know, they want to find out a black person invented this, which black person invented that, and that we also had empires. And one day I stopped and I said to myself, now, if I think that the exploitation that my ancestors suffered was wrong, why should I be proud that my ancestors also exploited somebody else? But because the norm for measuring a great civilization is that they should have built great buildings and had lots of slaves and done all those things, then we're trying to measure up in the same stakes using the same criteria.
Exactly.
And I refuse to do that. I remember I had a tremendous falling out with this young man from Montserrat in the Caribbean, who's one of these, you know, black is greatest kind of things. And we were discussing slavery. And I said to him, well, I was convinced that the slave trade could not have been as successful as it had been had there not been black African collaborators. Well, he refused to speak to me for months after that.
But that's I mean, it's historical truth.
But there's a lovely quotation in a booklet that I was reading one time that says this: every culture has aspects of it that draw people towards God and goodness, and every culture has aspects that draw people towards evil and badness. And to me that was a most liberating thing, just to recognize that every culture, every group of people, every person has those two sides to them. And I just have to accept you with the good and bad, and hopefully you accept me the same way. And Africans and Americans and whatever else, that they're all full of those.
I think it's a very important thing. It's showing very great wisdom to be able to recognize that we have two tendencies, you know.
Yeah.
But some people, you know, are just completely against that. You know, they're like,